Okay, I'll open our meeting. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, good evening. I would start with our roll call. Patrice Scott is here. Butch Cushing.
Present.
Dave Kent.
Here.
Stephanie Halter.
Here.
And Tom McLaughlin is excused, and he is replaced by our trusty alternate, Jack Scarborough.
That's correct.
All right. I will ask members if they've had a chance to look at our minutes from May 1st. And does anybody have any corrections or additions?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
on the 820 discussion,
Okay.
it doesn't have a page number, but
Okay. Wait a minute. Which minutes are you on? The draft? Okay.
yeah. The third paragraph down, the last sentence, I don't know if I said that, but if I did, it's pretty stupid, and I'd like to have it removed.
Okay, which one? The third, under questions?
No, third paragraph, variance is permission to
820.
violate the zoning ordinance.
I don't think you said that.
I don't think I said
I
that.
don't think you did.
So maybe somebody misconstrued what I said, so
Be up to the voters?
you're on the wrong page.
Page
4,
Madam Chair.
Yeah, 820 discussion.
Yeah,
Third paragraph.
right
Third
here.
paragraph, 1, 2,
Last
3.
sentence.
Okay, Dave Kent, the last sentence. Variance is
Yeah.
permission to violate the zoning ordinance.
It doesn't sound right.
No, something got misconstrued or I misstated.
I might have said that. Basically, that's what it is. Variance is permission, so let's just strike that.
Please, thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else? And I would entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
So move.
Okay, Butch, second. Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, now we are here for a public hearing, case number 110-006, special exception.
Before we start that, can I ask a question? At some point, these folks decided not to continue to the next meeting. Do we have to put something on the record about that?
I thought that was,
The understanding, as I saw it, Judge, was they had, we continued to a date certain. At that point, they were not ready to go ahead at that meeting. I told them they would have to refile at that point.
Start over.
So it's
Okay, it's off the
no
table.
longer under consideration.
Okay, thank you.
okay, so that, yeah, so that didn't happen during this meeting. We continued and they withdrew consideration, so, okay, I think that's reflected accurately. All right, I would say we're here to open the public hearing, a request for a special exception by Eric Bouchard. And it is a special exception under Article 3, Section 304, area dimensions regarding minimum yards for setbacks to allow a primary structure with the rear setback area in the village commercial zone. The ordinance allows for a front and rear setback to be 0 feet in the village commercial zone by special exception. So that is what we are here to determine. Okay, I would ask for the applicant to come forward or his representative. So we have Mr. French, Kevin French here.
And these are just some pictures of the proposed building, which is identical to the one across the street.
Uh-huh.
And the others are the other two are pictures of the existing building that's on the lot.
Thanks.
And these apartment buildings are permitted use in this zone, and what we were looking for is the setback in this village commercial zone is 0 on the sides, and 15 on the front, and 10 on the back, although in my application, I think I referenced it as 5, but it's actually 10-foot setback. And what we're what we're looking to do is to basically remove the existing building that's there, which is an old freight building that shows on those photos, which is the grade in building here. Presently, that exists and sets on two separate lots of record. One of this gray building is the existing building, and the present lot line runs right through here on this dash line.
Oh, I
So
see.
it cuts through the building.
I get that.
The proposal is to adjust that boundary line so that these two buildings would ultimately fall on their own lot. And right now, what we'd like to do is make these buildings the same as the one that's across the street, and we'd like to push them back to just about where the front of that existing building is. So we'd push that back into so the building would actually go back into the rear setback. Excuse me. Our reasoning for that is a couple things. One is all the utilities, water and sewer and everything are in front of the building out in the street. And so everything would be accessed that way. The other and most important factor in all this really is, as many of you probably know, this street has never been laid out as a street. So it kind of exists there as a prescriptive thing, if nothing else. There's been a couple of attempts over the years to make that a street and lay it out as a street. In light of that, and discussions about maybe that happening again, which I'd like to see. I'm not sure I'm going to live long enough, but I'd like to see it anyway. We wanted to keep those buildings back as much as we could to accommodate whatever needed to happen in that street for widening or anything like that. And like I said, the existing building would be taken down. And as far as the back goes, it's just the railroad tracks out in the back, so there isn't really anything there's no access across the back or anything like that. So there's a lot more value in front than there is in the back. And it is, the lot is, it is an appropriately sized lot that if we adhered to all the setbacks, it would shrink our building down to about 23 feet or something like that, which isn't really practical. And the way that these were done, one is that in the ordinance it states that you can't have apartments on the ground floor, so they have parking underneath, which satisfies all their parking requirements for site plan. And it also, this is actually, the bottom of that is actually in the floodplain, so that keeps the building and everything out of the floodplain. It's close, but it's technically in it. This isn't, we feel won't adversely affect the neighborhood at all, because presently there's an apartment building here, which would be identical to those. This is a 2-unit apartment building, and the existing building, although I'm sure a nice great building in its day, is getting tired, and it would be replaced with a modern, a more usable structure. Nothing against freight buildings. And also, these would be built to have sprinklers in them and things like that, just like the one over here. The other thing about this is that actually is improvement to the neighborhood, really, is in doing this, they're going to be required to upgrade the water service, increase the lines, I think 8-inch from the street down to this hydrant, and then 6-inch down the road. I think now it's 4 all the way from the street down through. So that would actually be an upgrade and an improvement. And again, by setting back, it gives a lot better, distance off the road for cars and vehicles and pedestrian, traffic down in that area. It wouldn't, we feel it wouldn't be a burden to town services. In fact, in a lot of ways, it would, because of the upgrades, it would actually be an improvement to them. And again, that kind of falls under, there'd be no significant, adverse effect to health or public welfare by keeping it back and keeping the right-of-way wider and improving the utilities. It would actually be a benefit in that area. And when we were done, the lot line issue would be corrected, and then they would each be on their own existing lot of record.
Okay. So anybody have a question for Mr. French?
I have a question. Encroachment on the railroad right away. How are you approaching that at all? or-
What's that? We're not in the railroad right away.
Right.
But that would be, the edge of the railroad right of way is this back line.
Okay,
And that is the line that we would be looking for the reduction to.
okay.
But we
So-
wouldn't be in that railroad right
You're
of way.
basically going to be building up against the railroad
Yeah, it
right
would be about a foot off that right of way. And that's because we wanted to maintain as much in the front as possible.
Okay.
Okay, yes, Dave?
Do you have to correct your application in terms of the numbers about the setbacks?
I could.
I think it was,
The one I put in,
I
I
think,
said.
yeah, ours
I
was
said
corrected.
five, and it's actually 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Is yours not corrected, Dave? Ours
Yeah,
was,
on the
Mine
front
was
is-
corrected,
in my-
mine was
in
corrected.
my,
It was
Okay,
dropped off.
application, I said 5 required.
Somebody manually did it.
okay. Second question,
Go ahead.
what are these little numbers that are in the buildings? The little red numbers?
Okay, those are actually, this is also going for site plan approval too. Those are the parking, each one of these buildings has 2 parking spaces under
Okay,
it, and that's what those are for.
okay. And if you go down there, which I did,
Okay.
there's 2 sets of tracks. One's dilapidated, got rails missing. How far from that to the building will that track be?
Now, the main track is out here, I believe.
Right.
And that dilapidated set that you talk about, I think is the set here.
Right?
That would be, this would probably be, and again, I don't have those on here. Good question, I probably should have that. They would probably be about, and this is a guess, but thinking about it, probably 8 or 10 feet, I think.
So it's a long way from the main track.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a long way, yeah, yes, it's a long way from the train track. Yeah, in fact, the main line is out, well, I say the main line is out here. And this was it was a spur line to get to that, to that building.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Murphy?
What's a typical setback from an active line, or does it vary?
From what?
For the railroad to the edge of right-of-way?
I don't know if there is one. I mean,
Oh, okay.
Typically, it all depends on where you are and what it is. And of course, the other thing too is, remember, this was all railroad
Right.
property at one time. I mean, yeah, actually, this all of these buildings, and even over here was railroad at one time, in different chunks. So they conveyed all of these off and preserved what they needed for their, right of way for rail use when they did that.
So it's about 24 feet.
Was that
24 feet.
24?
Big.
I come from a railroad
Okay.
family.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Jack.
Good to know.
Okay, so, yeah, Kevin, I was wondering about what's the possibility? I mean, we've heard of people talking about rail coming back. There's no possibility or in the foreseeable future that we're going to have a train riding up and down.
I'd like to see it, but again, I'm not sure which will happen first, that or the layout of that street, but probably I won't see
Right,
either one of them,
but it's
so.
one of those things that's been talked about, but there's actually nothing other than the little hobo railroad that comes
Right.
down
And
there
actually, if they
seasonally.
did, which I'd be all in favor of, there is adequate, space to do that. I mean, unless it gets to the point where they need 3 or 4 lines, then.
Right, but it's not like these people are going to be having a train speeding by.
And the other buildings, which are along here, are in a similar line. to there. They all back up to the Merrimack building. Hasn't been for years, but the Merrimack building is down there is right up to it too.
There's a mandatory speed limit through towns as well, so
Okay.
they're not gonna have
Yeah, it's not gonna,
streamliners.
oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
I had one.
Okay, yes, Stephanie?
Do you plan for anything on the back side of that building? I only see the pictures for the front. Or there's no decks or
The tar paper on the back.
tar paper?
Water.
Yeah, is it the same, it's the same,
It's a straight back. It's not
Okay.
straight.
Straight back, no decks, no students jumping out of.
No place to park.
Yeah, that's good.
Who owns that road?
Good.
yeah,
Question.
That's a funny question.
Is it a road technically?
I can answer.
Not per se.
Right away, yeah.
It's a right of way.
Part of it is owned, part of it's owned by Alex Ray.
Yeah.
And some of it is owned by different owners down through there. Well, this is a kind of aside, but an interesting aside, when the railroad deeded off these different parcels, some of them they gave rights of ways to, and some of them they didn't, which I never could quite figure out how they did that, but this one actually they gave a right of way to, so which comes down to, and the, excuse me, the water and sewer department has gotten deeded rights of ways down through there. But it's,
Now, who maintains it?
We do.
As far as one, yeah.
KTM, Kevin from KTM.
Yeah.
That's what it says in
Plows and stuff. We do the plowing. Town comes through occasionally, very occasionally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do.
Now,
Rarely.
how many exits out of
It's all
that street?
sprinkled, so they
No,
only-
but I mean for the road,
Oh,
in and
so
out.
I think we have right-of-ways both ways, don't we?
Well, yeah,
Three
well, yeah.
onto Main
yeah,
Street.
you do on this building.
Right.
These people have to go this way, because that's where that right of way goes. But there's,
No, I know
there's
it's
two,
true.
basically there's.
Right, there's a way out, but it's only one way now, right? You used to be able to go up and down.
Well, they still go up and
Well,
down.
there's Depot Street.
This is two ways. The street, and I forget the name of it, it's down by.
Railroad.
Is it Railroad Street?
Yeah, that's one way.
Okay. That one, they limited to one way, right there.
Right, but I'm talking about going past KTM up through the other way toward the skateboard
I
park.
think it's one way past the
Yeah.
senior center.
Right.
I think that one's one way.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the, right,
Well,
I'm
that's
talking
one
about the
way.
road, right, yeah. So my concern is there's only, the traffic is going one way to get out of this whole complex now. That's,
No.
It
No,
can
so
go,
the road
it can
has-
go two ways to go up by,
Lucky.
between, the Lucky Dog and True Colors.
Depot Street.
right,
Yes.
Depot Street, right.
Depot Street.
Oh, yeah, the road itself is two ways, but I'm talking about exits, to get out of there, to get from
Out of the
behind there.
building or out
Go
of
down
the?
through the skate park.
Yeah,
Right.
Now, is that
North.
maintained,
It's two ways.
that's maintained in the
I
winter?
thought that was one way going up.
No. On the north end, at the road that's all Depot Street, like a V. From the stop sign comes down, makes the turn around the Grotto parking lot, becomes one way past the senior center
Okay,
to tie into the lower part of Highland, or Chase, or whatever we're calling it these days. And then there's also past the skate park as well. So there's, as far as maintained exits, there's two. That would be Depot and the senior center one-way part.
okay.
Okay.
And I think they keep it open down by the skate park all winter, don't they?
We used to plow that all the way through, but the road got so bad that.
Right.
Right, see, I've never seen any, exit out that way, other than up the street that comes out right at Rite Aid.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, that's by the skate park.
So that's how they come in there too, or
Yeah.
go out there?
People
Yeah,
drive,
but it's the road's tough.
It's like
Right.
a class 6 dirt road.
Okay,
I believe the road that goes down by the Old Panther Pub and
yes.
yeah, that one.
And Napa.
Yeah, that little neck.
between there. I think that's one way going down.
Yes, it is. And see, that's what I was saying. It used to be two-way. You used to go up and down that way. It used to slip in behind that way, but now you can't do that. So I'm just concerned about, the numbers of people growing. How are they gonna, everybody's gonna have to go out the one way. Is that gonna be enough?
Now, how many cars spaces do we have for this unit?
There are 6 2-bedrooms, so,
It
You have to
requires
1.5,
30 and all.
yeah.
30,
1.5 per
30
unit.
cars.
What's across the road?
Yeah, what's the one across the road?
What's that?
What's this unit?
Same.
Same?
yeah, it's the
30
same
cars?
ones.
Well, no, not
So they have-
That's half that, because that's a,
2, 4, 6,
this,
it's 2
these
bedrooms.
two,
45 cars.
so this one requires 15.
Let me ask a question.
Sure, Dave?
In the public interest thing, have you talked to the water department about putting a hydrant down there?
Yeah, actually, there is a hydrant now right here. And that's what, I don't think they've requested a hydrant.
They didn't.
But they've requested that this line it's 4-inch now. They want it 8-inch from the street down to this hydrant, and then 6-inch down to
And that's required for the sprinklers anyway.
But they haven't said anything about hydrant.
Right, but that's part of your planned improvement to the sewer.
Planning board's job? Figure that out?
Yeah, they'll have to go for a site plan review.
And that, if they,
There is a fire department connection at the street. No, correct? I'm on the existing apartment?
Yeah, on the existing
Oh, yeah,
apartment, they
sure.
can hook a hose up.
Yeah, they can hook right up.
So we actually put in, I guess.
In essence, there is.
I see.
That's
So
a hydrant.
It's, pardon me?
If it's on the building, that's a hydrant.
Yes.
Yeah, so there'd be 2 more.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Kevin? All right, thank you. I'll open the public hearing on this application and ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor.
Hi, my name is William Harris. I'm a butter, but also on the application.
Okay.
And I think this would be a great thing for the town. It would clean up the area, it would look good, it would add to the tax rolls. I think it would be a great thing for the town.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris.
Madam Chair, we received a letter that I
Yes,
left for
I
you
was going to
from,
mention that. I
the
have
butter.
a letter right here from Kevin Moss, who is in favor and talks about the improvements he's seen on Railroad Square since Eric Broussard was involved in, with the other building. So that's a favorable. And I'd ask, is there anybody here, I don't see anybody else here that's not connected to the application, so we don't have anybody in opposition. All right, so I would now close the public hearing and ask the board, would you like to discuss, or would you like to make findings of fact?
I'm ready to
Board's
go.
pleasure. Okay, I'll start with findings of fact. Let's see, let's start with, about applicant will adjust boundary line. And correct existing two-parcel problem.
You had no opposition.
Yep.
No opposition to application.
Adequate parking, maybe?
Yep. Proposal includes adequate parking. And a flood zone configuration.
I think it's going to enhance the area.
Yeah.
Okay, we have two people spoke in favor. let's see, how do we say that, to,
Proponents, maybe?
proponents, people in favor, project. How about no foreseeable train traffic, or no train traffic for the foreseeable future?
Water system will be upgraded.
Yep. Applicant will improve water system.
You'll dramatically reduce the fire hazard.
And
Sprinkler system.
sprinkler system will reduce fire hazard. Okay, I missed one thing. People wanted to say, upgrades will improve, enhance the area. Upgrades will improve neighborhood. So it is a neighborhood with a number of people living down there. Okay, is there anything?
Madam Chair? May I?
Yes?
It is, the reduction is allowed by special exception in the ordinance.
Reduction,
The reduction of the
Setback.
setback.
oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
That'll
Yeah.
be the first question up on the criteria, so I figured we'd get it.
Right, reduction of setback
It's allowed.
is allowed under ordinance. I just want to say, it makes me a little nervous if it was on the 0 line, but that there's a foot there, it makes me feel a little better, anyway. Just in case we have trains someday.
But that right away, you said, what, 25 feet?
Yeah.
That's 24.
Which is what I didn't understand, that there's actually two sets of
Still
tracks.
That's quite a bit of room.
Yeah, okay. All right, anything else you think we need to put? And I will start going through the criteria. Number 1, the proposed use shall be only those allowed in this ordinance by special exception.
True.
Which?
True.
Okay, true. And Jack, did you say? Yeah, I would say if you're our sitting alternate, you can vote, right?
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't say you shouldn't vote. So, number 2, the specific site is an appropriate location and of adequate size for the use. I'd start with Stephanie.
True.
Jack?
True.
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 Okay, unanimous. 3, the use as developed will not adversely affect the character of the area in which the proposed use will be located.
True.
Stephanie?
True.
True.
Actually improve it. True.
True.
Okay, all right. 4, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
True.
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 All right. And 5, the use will not place excessive or undue burden on town services and facilities.
True.
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 Depends how rowdy the tenants are. True.
True.
That's true. 6, there would be no significant effect resulting from such use upon the public health, safety, and general welfare of the neighborhood in which the use would be located.
True.
True.
True?
True.
True.
Okay. And I would entertain a motion to accept.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Prior to the, may I offer 2 conditions?
Okay.
One would be the approval of a boundary line adjustment, and the other is approval at site plan review.
Okay. All right, then we'll add those 2 things. I have that even written down. I didn't know, I thought I was going to do that after we
Great
voted.
minds, Madam
right?
Chair.
But the 2 conditions which were recommended by our administrator are the site plan review by the planning board and the boundary line adjustment. So in that case, I would accept a motion to accept with 2 conditions.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Jack, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right. You got your special exception. And thank you and good luck with your buildings. I appreciate what you've done down there. Thank you.
Leave those clamps there, buddy. There he is.
See you at the planning board.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, where's my,
so,
Oh, absolutely. They're way too valuable for us.
Any other business for us?
All right, we have some unfinished business. No, none that I know of. Brian, unfinished?
No, we don't have anything pending. There's no classes going on right now. Or
Okay.
none that we've been, for your information, the town of Plymouth is now part of the Lakes Region Planning Commission,
Okay, Lakes Region instead
as
of North
opposed
Country.
to North Country. And we attended their annual meeting the other day, and they seem like a real great group. So
Right, good,
they have
okay.
a lot of stuff available to us. I know our recycling manager was slathering over jumping in with them because it eases the burden of the toxic waste cleanup,
Oh, good.
and that'll help him, so.
All right, well, that's great.
Everybody's excited.
And under new business, I think Dave might have something under new business that you wanted to discuss?
Well, I made a suggestion that perhaps at some point we should meet with the planning board. When that fellow brought the proposal for the dormitory building, the zoning simply doesn't allow it. But yet, it did seem like if the zoning did allow it, it would have been a reasonable use of that piece of property. In which case, the zoning ordinance ought to be changed to allow, either create a new little college zone or whatever you want to call it, with different criteria. And at least they should, I think they should at least consider that. Now, whether they adopt it or not is up to them, but, and it's not up to us. But I wonder if we should suggest it to them or have a meeting with them or whatever.
Well, I definitely think there's,
One more thing. They got to get this done by November, you know, and so it would seem to me that if they don't get going on it, it isn't going to happen. So time is a question. Time is an issue.
right, well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's not, I think it would be appropriate to meet with the planning board occasionally, whether it's once a year before, to maybe have input into problems that we've seen with, you know, things that might need to be looked at by them to propose an amendment, but it's not our job to, you know, propose or to make amendments to the zoning ordinance. Our
No,
job.
but it is our job to point out things that we need.
Right, our job is to bring things up if we're having problem areas. So that's why I think it's a good idea, maybe, but I also think it's great that we have Jack here, who can actually function as a liaison, and also Brian, Mr. Murphy, who sits at both of them, that they certainly would bring up, you know, any concerns that we have when the planning board, at the appropriate time.
I think it's a great idea. You know, it's, since proposals can come out of the planning board and the Board of Selectmen for zoning amendments, you know, it's another avenue, and it's obviously, you know, of interest to the town if one of our boards is interested to it. The only thing that I am not satisfied with, and I can find this out as soon as I can get back to my books, is there are only certain things that the boards can meet together on. When I was sitting where you guys are, we did do one joint meeting with the planning board. It was on a specific thing.
Right.
It was at their meeting, which typically is how, or by statute is how it's done. And it was in order to move along in the process. It was either, you know, that night or they would go away. So we held our meeting, and then the chairman of the planning board took over with the decision in hand and moved ahead like that. I don't know, and I will find out, whether you guys can put your heads together, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Versus something like that.
Right.
Where you're concentrating on a
purpose.
specific item as opposed to the general view. Once I have that question answered, which will be probably Thursday morning, I don't intend to look at the statutes tomorrow, then we can go ahead with that. And I will also suggest that to the planning board. We have a work session Thursday night, and see how they feel about it, and I believe that they would accept any input. We've been kind of tied up with the master plan at this point, and we have already started discussing where we're going after that, and part of it was, you know, it seems like there's always a zoning rewrite of a very minor thing that comes every year. But David is correct. If something this big would probably require quite a few public hearings, to be
Right,
honest with you.
right.
More than just the two that we have to have.
And the people would have to vote on the
Absolutely.
any zoning amendment, so that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
That meeting made me feel uncomfortable that something was being proposed that was not in our zoning ordinance, and things like that, I mean, there's,
Right. But,
some way
you know,
to.
it is and it isn't. You know, it's residential. You know, it's just scope.
Right,
And
right.
the
it's
fact
the
that there
scope.
was an upper limit put on it indicates that, you know, it is beyond that, but also, and I've said this before, not every variance request is addressed specifically in the ordinance, which is why it's a variance and not a special exception. And, you know,
Right.
even though Dave withdrew that comment, in essence, it's correct.
Right.
That your variance is a license to break a particular part of a statute after consideration. You know, then they shouldn't be given lightly for that matter. But for something like this, and I agree, you know, the sense of the board here is that, you know, whether it's how you feel about it or whether it's statutory, it's something that should be addressed. You know, and perhaps at least we would have a standard to guide other things against, you know, going forward. So I'll
If
like
you
I said,
could
I'll
look
do a
into
little bit
that.
of research. I'll throw it up to the board as part of our discussions on Thursday, and I'll email you what I come out with.
Well, I have no desire to have extra meetings, believe me. If anything, though, but someone has to light a fire somewhere, or
Yes.
nothing's going to happen,
Absolutely.
you know?
You're
And
absolutely
it's the
right.
appropriate mechanism is to communicate with them, but it's not our place as the zoning board to try to legislate anything. That's all. That's.
No, but you,
Absolutely.
as citizens, you
Right.
can bring it
Right.
forward, and as a town
Right.
board, you can bring it
And just
forward.
our concern and our experience at the board level, what needs to be tweaked.
You know,
when it's time
certainly,
to
years
rewrite.
ago, and I talked about this with you, Patrice, fences used to be restricted to the building envelope and setbacks, which is ridiculous when you come to think of it, because you were deprived of the use of your property to cage your dog or whatever. So at that point, we moved it out with certain conditions about, you know, appearance. You have to keep it 4 feet back to the building setback, and then you can go 6 feet. You hold a foot off the property line,
Yeah.
things of that nature. So, and that definitely did come out of the zoning board. And then it was taken up by the planning board, and it passed. So
Okay.
the problem that we always seem to have is that everybody is so caught up in the business at hand that there isn't quite enough time for the planning aspect of the planning board. It's more
Everyone doesn't get the
reaction.
plan, right.
Right,
And
exactly.
So that's an excellent point that
However,
you made.
We have had 2 applications that deal with things right close to the college where it didn't fit the zone.
Correct.
We had the small thing next to
Right, the one
President's
down
House.
School Street, right?
And then we had the big building, and both of them were turned down. Was it right to turn them down? Yes, I believe it was. Could the law be adjusted, which maybe would have allowed those, perhaps?
Yes.
So,
But you're correct. It's not the job of the folks sitting here to
no, no,
determine that.
and I don't care to get involved in this.
Yes, no, I
Right.
agree.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
all right. Well, thank you, Brian, for looking
you.
into that, and I don't see anything else, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Okay.
Let's go.
Thank you.